Hey guys, this is Production Music Live with another tutorial, and in this one we are going to check out the style of Odesza. I prepared a remake for one of their remixes. What you see over here is the arrangement. We are using Ableton, live standard elements, and a couple of piano sounds and string sounds from their packs. And we are also using Native Instruments Massive. No other third-party plugins used here. So this arrangement is divided into several groups. We have a break over here, there's build up, a riser group, and a drop over there. And as you can see, we are almost using no drums in the build up parts, in the break parts, and in the build up. In the rising parts, there's a little bit of claps and snares and hi-hats. And in this drop part, we have kick, snare, tambourine, and some swish kind of thing. So that's the drums group. We are going to have a look at that later. And down here you can see there's some instruments, massive instances grouped into this drop group where all those drop chords are played. And down here there's a little bit of piano and some vocal chops. And in this build instrument group over here I have strings and a couple of lead sounds. And why are they grouped and they aren't grouped over here, those down there? Because I'm applying some side chaining or frequency shifting. But we are going to talk about that in a minute on all those elements. And those are over here are strings, and they're copied over here into simpler devices so you can use them if you don't have those string packs, for example. Okay, so let's start with this break part over here. We have basically those notes. They are a little bit off sometimes over here to simulate some hand playing them on the piano and not doing it too mechanical. And with this deep, massive sound, it sounds like this in solo mode. You can see I emphasized a little bit over here in this lower frequency because there's no bass playing right there. So we need to put in a little bit of more bassy feel and a slight vinyl distortion effect. So you get this vinyl distortion down there and it's a little bit applied. The sidechain is off and you can see there's simple delay. And all the elements are not used. Deactivated elements are the ones that I'm always loading with every track, but then I end up not using them. Okay, the massive sound, it's out of our future-based massive preset pack, and it's called Pad Whirly. And you can see we are using a saw wave, and a little bit, no square wave over here. So. And we get this nice feel because we pull down the filter a little bit. So the same thing, no, it's actually a different MIDI over here. See those MIDIs? Let's play this solo. That's just another layer of massive, adding in those noisy feels to the sound so they come a little bit on top. Feels a little old school that way. And that one, okay, it looks difficult, but it actually isn't difficult. We're just taking an instance of massive and we're pulling up the white noise over here. A little bit of saw, square wave, and the third oscillator is actually not amped. So saw, square, and white noise. Filter not too open. And then you get this sound. And don't worry about this heavy chain over here. That's just side chaining automatically loaded in and it's not being used actually here. And just a little bit of chorus and reverb applied. But we need to check back the macro controls and a little bit of vinyl distortion over here. But those sounds work without a lot of effects. You can see that reverb is dry wet is half the way applied, and the chorus about 37%. But it's not too important, the sound over here. So let's check the third one. It's called Attacky. What you see over here, it has a heavy low cut, and it also has another low cut in the mid frequency. So the equalizer over here is in mid side mode, and to have a bit better mixing experience, because those pads are really heavily in the middle of your panorama in the lower frequency, so we don't need to pile up those frequencies with another bunch of sounds in there. So we just try to take the sound a little bit to the sides. Chorus and a simple delay. And the sounds MIDI. So that's basically this pad thing over here. And we have this higher lead over here, which is playing C6, C5, something between C5 and C6. It's G sharp 5. Quite a long attack time here. It's also low cut and reverb, 10 seconds long reverb, very long, and chorus as well. So, and I think the envelope over here is quite attacky. Yeah, so attack pulled up to have it come in late like a string you're playing. So now how do we get to the build-up part? We're using a little bit of white noise over here with massive, created with massive. It's just a single note, and we are playing a massive instance. You can put it on the init patch, deactivate all the oscillators, and use noise white. And that sounds like this. You can see I automated the auto filter a little bit with it to have it like swoosh up. And then there's another effect I found in that original Odesza mix, and I tried to replicate it a little bit with massive. It basically does this. Kind of introduces the other part that's coming now. So this sound is actually pretty cool. How's it done? It's done with a square wave, with a pulse wave, and a little bit of white noise. And low cuts over here. Again, auto filter automated up a little bit, and simple delay. Yeah, and important over here is the gliding. So we have gliding time up, and we have on monophone in the voicing tab. And then we make sure those MIDIs are a little bit overlaid over here to have this pitching up effect. Okay, so the next part is those strings, and we basically have a string group, a string ensemble staccato. We apply a little bit of EQing, mid-side EQing as well, a little more punch in the middle of those string sounds, then also a little bit of chorus and a reverb, a bit warmer saturation to fill it up a little more, and we are playing those notes. So a little bit to the left, and I'm using another section of the double bass strings, staccato as well, and they're adding a little bit of low end punch to it. The effect chain is basically the same, a little louder over here, and the notes are the same. So on top of that, we are still playing this high lead I introduced before, and we are playing a couple of those weird arpeggio kind of sounds. I heard something like that in the remix I was trying to remake, and yeah, my idea was, how do I come up quickly with that sound? So I just used some massive square sound, a little bit of mellophant or something, but it's not even that important which wavetable we are using over here, because we are going up pretty high. It just needs to have this brilliant atmosphere, and we're at D#6, so we're really high in the frequency range. We're cutting off everything in the middle, because the middle is already filled up with string sounds. We're adding a little bit of reverb, chorus, and a simple delay over here. Feedback up, dry wet up. And the important thing over here is the use of the arpeggiator MIDI effect. Just put in the C major walk and then changed it to those settings down here. So MIDI effects come in front of audio instruments or VST instruments, and then with audio effects. That's always the logic of the effect chain. So first we work with the MIDI, then we send the MIDI to the instrument creates the sound, and then we can manipulate the sound with audio effects. Turning it off. So I'm just telling this arpeggiator to go a little nuts with those notes. And the rate is what decides on the speed over here. So if we take it down. So let's take it up again. And we are basically doing the same thing over here. We're just going a little lower with the sound. Slightly different patch here. But this is -2 octaves. So we are basically not at C6, we are at C4, C3, C4. And I cut off some resonances that are really disturbing there. So the resonances are always those sounds that really like bite your ear, and you can take a bell EQ and just bell them out. Reverb again. And then we are introducing a little bit of a piano over here. It's the grand piano equal production, so you get that if you go into your Ableton suite and you look for grand piano and go to sounds, production, equal production, that one. If you don't have those piano sounds, but you want to use this template, I kind of copied that piano sound into a simpler device over here and use the same effect chain. So it's not as high quality as that one, but it plays a piano. Also cut off some lows over here and a little bit of sidechaining compression. So we're using sidechain 1 over here, which is this track on top, which later kicks in and gives you this ghost track information to duck the sound whenever the sound is played, and we duck the piano whenever that sound is played. So over here, with no sidechain, there's a good attack. You can quickly listen to it. And over here, we should hear some ducking. every time the kick hits in, it's kind of late duct. So all together. And I'm just using some reverse vocal shouts over here, really cut off almost everything, just keeping some higher frequencies, and to create a little more dynamic here. It's not even in pitch, but you could kind of, pitch it there. But since it's so silent, it really doesn't matter too much. So now in the original remix of Odesza, they're using some vocal shouts or something and vocal chops, and I just used a sample out of Vengeance vocal samples and tried to replicate it as good as possible within a couple of minutes. And we are playing those notes down there with this looped vocal sample, so it's in loop mode and it loops this region all over again if the MIDI note is longer than that sample over here. EQing, cut off some resonances again over here, no side chaining in this moment, a little bit of auto panning, so we are going a little bit from the left to the right in the panorama with this vocal, and cut off some higher frequencies there, a little bit of mid-side EQing, putting it off in the middle basically, focusing on the higher parts in the middle and putting the other things a little more to the side, and reverb. And it's getting a little louder over time. It's getting up 4 decibels. And we have another vocal shot over here, which is doing like that, 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 that. You can see over here I'm introducing the drop. I'm preparing for the drop and I'm playing those quick notes over here. And on the build instrument group, in this moment, we go down in the fine knob to create this tape stop kind of effect on all those sounds in this group. So on all those string sounds, well, they're not playing anymore. We just applied on their reverb tails and a little bit on this long chord over here, which is done by Massive again. So that's a basic chord again, saw, not applied, white noise not applied, just a saw wave basically playing those chords down here. And getting pitch down with this frequency shifting on the group. So how do we get there with the drums? We just use a clap sound here. A little bit reduxed, or there's a little bit of bit crushing going on with the redux. Soft 5.0 and a little bit of chorus So that's just getting this dirty clap feel. And we are playing this groove. And this clap over here is playing actually the same, and it's a snare sound. Those sounds are out of our D Premium sample pack here, as well as the other drum sounds we are using later. Check the description if you're interested in that pack. And I'm also using a snare over here. And another snare. On the master, I have an auto filter. And this auto filter is applied one time, and it's applied like a low cut filter here to drag up all the sounds and prepare you for the drop. Behind it, you can see our typical TML mastering chain. We have another tutorial only on mastering with Ableton effects, and we are basically developing this chain in that tutorial. So check our channel if you're interested in mastering with Ableton only, and you will know what's inside this mastering chain. I'm not covering this now in this tutorial. And now we entered the drop part, and we go through those elements. So let's look at the drop group first. So I noticed in Odesza style, they're using those chords, and they're a little bit unorganized, if you will. So they're not too straightforward, and it's a little bit of a mixture of several chords that are playing. And I try to listen to the notes, and I rebuilt the MIDIs more or less, and then I changed them just a bit for this tutorial. Okay, what's that weird pitchy sound? Also on this group, we're using a frequency shift pitcher. Always in the beginnings here, and a little bit towards the end we're going down with the frequency, with the hertz range on all those massive devices. And later we are using a sidechain compressor on the kick, and we are also using a sidechain compressor on the snare. So that's for this entire group of massive organs and massive saw and lead sounds here. On this entire group, we are docking with the kick sound, and we are docking with the clap sound, because I noticed the clap really cuts through, or it's more a tambourine and a snare, cuts really through with in their tracks, so there must be some kind of sidechain on the snare as well. So let's have a look at this. So we have the kick over here, and we have the snare sounds combined here. And those really always duck those those drop massive sounds over here. So what is this massive actually playing? It's playing the pad chord leads, And it's a pulse wave, it's a saw wave and a throat wave, and the noise is not that much up. And I think we're using a little bit of detuning over here, or quite a lot, 0.6 fully applied over here. So let's put this on solo, without detuning. You really notice the difference of the detuning. It's really important here. And later a little low cut, sidechain again. I think I had this sidechain on before I put onto the group, and also a little bit of frequency shift pitching again, and warming up the highs with the saturator warm highs. This one. And the second instance of massive plays. And you see they're getting really loud over here, but I kind of like that sound when they're getting a little loud and dirty in the higher frequency, so that really gives this dirty, punchy feel to them. And we are using math waves over here, so rough math wavetables. Also out of our future-based massive preset pack, check description for that one if you're interested. And a bright noise on top, a chorus effect, and again, in the voicing, we are not doing any detuning here. But it would sound cool as well, but we can't detune all the layers of this drop sound, so I kept that one like that. And the effect chain is basically the same, because I just copied that one. And the third sound. Another layer, just adding in a little more feel, and that one is actually pretty much detuned, and it's also the rough math wavetable. And we're always playing those notes. Okay, and now we have a couple of sliders that are coming in after those pad sounds over here. Let's have a look at those together. So I noticed those in the remix by Odesza, and there are several ways of doing it. You could do that with sidechaining as well, or with ducking or something, but I simply thought it would be easier for the remake to just build them like that, and we'll tell them to play those chords here. And cut off quite a bit of the lows, and make sure you go up high with your math sounds over here. So what do we do with the automation? We have frequency shifting. Again, this knob here. So, and we also use auto filter. This one. So this one is clipping pretty heavily, but to my ear, in the mix, it didn't really make that big of a difference. So I kind of liked it more dirty. Utility, which controls the volumes here. So we are kicking the volume in. And we also have a sidechain here, which kicks in right when the kick comes. So it takes down the sound, anything that's left of the sound, as soon as the kick comes back. So you see this threshold over here being applied then. And well, This sound does the chord part, and this is the upper swooshy part. So we are higher over here, we are playing the same chords, cutting off more of the low ends and applying the same effect chain, and it's a square wave and a pulse wave. So let's gain some perspective here. So we just checked out all the elements of this group. And this group is accompanied by a bass sound, this one. And I'm keeping some space for higher frequencies here. The bass only emphasized in those frequencies and has a little bit of this rough feel in those frequencies. And it's sidechained to the kick and to the clap as well. And we are playing those notes. And let's check out the patch. It's a bass wide patch out of our master preset pack for future bass, and it's a pulse wave again, and it's combined with square wave, which is always pretty cool for a bass sound. We have a tube on top. That one is really working here, and we also have a chorus on top, which takes it a little wider. And later we are kicking in some pianos as well. Just at the start, something hip-hoppy kind of feel to it. So again, this piano out of the piano pack, and a little bit of delay applied and put to the left. And also we have vocals here. There's this kind of vocal in the original track, and I just used, again from the vocal pack from Vengeance, used a vocal shot, and I gave it this frequency, a sidechain and a reverb and a simple delay. And that's how you achieve the sound, and you play those notes. Over here, well, that one just adds a little drive in the second part of the draw part. It introduces a new element. And the sound really doesn't matter that much because it's already so full up. You just need to get through with those notes. So that's why I put this a little bit brighter. And there's probably a redux here. There's the redux. Without the redux, it doesn't cut through mix. So we put on the redux. So pretty obvious effect. And this lead is just adding in a little note to it. Okay, and now we check out the drums quickly. So we have a kick sample here, kick 20, and we cut off a part there and we put a little bit of compression onto it and saturation and more compression after saturation, and we are playing this pattern. heavy hip-hoppy kind of kick. And in the drums group, we have nothing applied, it's just a collector group to be able to close them. And we have clap over here, a snare basically. It's snare dry out of our deep premium sample pack, and it's compressed, saturated, cut off a little bit over there, and it comes 5 milliseconds earlier than the next sample, which is just this dirty snare sound, also compressed, taken off a little bit of the lows here, saturated. And then most important thing is Odesza is using this tambourine kind of sound, so we use a tambourine as well. That one really has to cut through the mix. So I'm taking it in a little later, 8 milliseconds late, so the transients of the other things are already through and there's enough space for the transient of this tambourine, which starts right there, so there's no milliseconds lost in there. And also saturated chorus on top and a little bit of compression again. Also playing C3, but a little less velocity because it sounds nicer down here. Can you verify that quickly? Just kicks in too much for my taste, so I'm taking a lower velocity here. That one just opens up the drumming a little, but I'm not sure if you hear the difference if you put it off, so I'm not going into detail on it. The pre-clap is maybe more important on every second clap. And it comes almost 30 milliseconds earlier. So and it kind of distinguishes the second clap part from the first one, so that's why it's in there. And we also have a swooshy clap. What's that one doing? It's a reversed percussive cymbal kind of thing. And it's just getting there, it's going like zip, to have that part a little more interesting. That's just a little more interesting loop than just have it go through there. And also we are using a hi-hat over here, which is pitching up and down a little bit. Hi-hat sound, reverb on top. We are playing funny little pattern, which is this trappy kind of hi-hat sound. And what is this thing doing over here? That one is actually emphasizing it's a reversed vocal chop, and it's emphasizing those drop group pads. Just another layer for those. And over here we just used some random vocal sample and have it sound like a message.
Okay, Houston, I'm on the port. Okay, Houston, I'm on the port.
Just because they have some vocal samples in there, we don't have them, so we use another one to have quite a similar feeling or something. So summing up, this is actually this Odesza remake, quite fun doing it, a little challenging in the drop part, so you really need to layer a couple of massive instances, and this rough math wavetable is pretty cool for those kind of sounds, and then you just detune it with one and you leave the other one undetuned, and then you get there with a full chord. You use those full chords always sound more interesting than the basic ones. think I'm pretty much through over here. You could, of course, double this in the length if you went from this part over here. Then you can basically do the same thing all over again and have the drop a little longer and go a little more crazy or something. But I'm keeping it this way, I'm keeping it here. Subscribe to our channel if you like this tutorial. Check the description for drum sounds and massive presets and also for the template of this remake. And I hope to see you next time.